Welcome to 365 Brothers, the podcast. Have you wondered who are the Black men that you pass on the street every day? What are their lives like? Well, in this podcast, we have an in-depth conversation with Black men from all across America and all walks of life. Listen to their stories, their experiences, their wisdom. I'm your host, Robin Shine. Get comfy. Today, we are speaking to the owner of Nerdvana. He's an entrepreneur in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. His name is Patrick Wilson, and let's jump right in. Patrick, tell the listeners a little bit about your store and a little bit about you before we go into the questions.
Well, growing up on the streets of Chicago, I was always a little bit nerdier than everyone else. So it was just naturally inclined for me to actually do some more nerdy things in my time. I felt that there was a pocket in the community that was underserved and underutilized, and nothing else existed in the world like it. So I wanted to make sure that I opened a store that was specifically targeting nerds while also doing consignment. By doing that, I'm actually able to help my customers get rid of their unneeded games, toys, and action figures, as well as other nerdy collectibles. Nerdy is the word. And they're able to get more money for their things than any place else. As a nerd and as like someone who actually like values their money, I was so tired of everybody saying, "Oh, I'm going to give you way less for your items than what you deserve," because this is what everybody's doing. I wanted to shake it up by doing something new and unique. By investing my time in my customers and not my money, I'm able to actually serve the community greater than anybody else can.
That's fantastic. I love that it's a business that basically is also green because you're, getting the most out of products. And I the fact that it's obviously in how you described it, it's a customer service based business that then benefits them financially.
Yes.
That's great. Anything else that you'd like to say about yourself before we jump into the questions?
Just a married father of two. Been living in Sioux Falls for the last 10 years. Just enjoying my community and wanted to help it grow.
How did you end up in Sioux Falls from Chicago?
I like to tell a joke. In TV when a dad goes to go get a pack of cigarettes and never comes back, do you know where he goes?
Let me guess. Sioux Falls?
Sioux Falls, South Dakota. My dad came here years ago, and my sisters followed him here, and some of my favorite people came, so I ended up coming as well.
Wow. And if I can just belabor it a moment, and what was it that had your father, go to Sioux Falls?
His kids weren't here, apparently. I'm kidding. I don't know. I don't know.
That's hilarious. That's fair. All right, so let's jump in. What's your favorite song, either right now or all time?
Take Me to Church by Hoser. I like listening to the church, to that song. It can be considered one of my favorite songs of all time.
Excellent. And why?
Because it actually shows the struggle between being an outcast and being persecuted for being an outcast within different sects of the community without being specific. It's showing that the fact that you can love a part of people that don't love that part of you, and the struggles that come with that.
I like that. That's really deep, actually. Being able to love the person and not necessarily love all their opinions or behaviors, but still love the human that they are. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Because you mentioned, how it resonates in terms of being an outcast. Is there a particular community? Is it related to being a nerd or something else?
Being an openly African or Black nerd, African American or Black nerd is like saying, there's essentially, there's like one guy that like nobody is like, but there are Black nerds that's just not as nerdy as or willing to show it.
Yeah, it's when I think about, because my mind immediately races to, are there, kind of an archetype of it? And you're right, whenever there is an image of a Black nerd. It's like it's over the top. And they are considered, outside of the norm, as opposed to just being super smart or interested in what they're interested in.
Exactly.
The next question is about a childhood memory. What is a favorite childhood memory?
Does teenagehood count?
Sure.
When I was 14 years old, just entered high school, there was an essay contest, and I actually won an essay to actually go to Washington, D.C., and I met Obama. That was before he was president. Like, I actually got to spend a week in D.C., going to all museums and stuff, and I love going to museums. So it was like one of those things where you get to go to like 15 of the 40 Smithsonian museums in 1 week, go see a bunch of museums, and it was like of the time of my life. It was like Disney World for geeks.
That's a great way to describe it. That is a great way to describe it. Well, I was going to ask you a different question, but now I'm going to ask you, which of the Smithsonian's was your favorite?
The Natural History Museum was actually my favorite because it actually shows how different cultures like evolve and change, and the likenesses between those cultures, and what's like the commonalities and whatnot, how these cultures evolve into their own like being.
I have a sneaking suspicion that one of your kids is there. Is that right?
Yeah, but Bean is in the back talking her head off.
How old is she?
She's 1.5.
I can tell this much. She's happy.
Well, she's always surrounded by both of her parents because we invested in this business, and like she has everything she needs here. So
yeah, you can hear it. I mean, she is just free.
She is free.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
But she's not free. She gets really mad.
May she always know that compass. So your favorite Smithsonian?
The National History Museum. It actually shows the different likenesses of the way cultures evolve into what makes them their unique culture, and actually shows the links between like the evolution of their culture, how it actually connects everybody and makes them unique at the same time.
Huh.
It shows how like environment helps us build the culture up more than the difference between family structures and like communities.
Given your awareness of that, is there something unique about Sioux Falls that you see in creating the culture there that you love?
The unique thing about Sioux Falls is because the way the state was formed over 100 years ago, the state was formed in 1889. It was actually built around Native Americans and inclusive with Native Americans within their community. So there's a lot of people who, even though we're a red state, that we actually have some pretty blue ideas because this state was built with the diversity in mind.
Wow. I did not know that. Thank you for dropping a little knowledge on us. I had no idea. So let's talk about accomplishments. What is a favorite? And I asked this question in 2 parts. A favorite personal accomplishment, the one that means the most to you, and then what accomplishment is the one where others are most impressed about? And sometimes they're the same and sometimes they're different. So let's start with the one that means the most to you personally.
Well, that's a difficult question. If I don't say my kids, they feel bad.
Okay, so duly noted. Kids first, and next.
I don't even know how to answer that question. When it comes to accomplishments, I don't like to think about my past as far as accomplishments are concerned, because you like when moving towards the next step, you gotta forget the past and remember like what you're aiming for.
Okay.
If I sat and thought about the things I did in the past, I'd be like, oh yeah, I did all of these things, but then I feel like I would sound like some guy remembering his high school days. Like, yeah, in high school I did this, in the college I did this. My greatest accomplishment is actually being able to actually come up from the city, never of all my brothers and sisters, never spending a night in jail in my life, and never having to worry about a roof over my head when push came to shove.
I got it. I hear that the accomplishment that means the most to you is being responsible, accountable, and independent.
Yes.
And then what about the one that others seem to be impressed by?
Actually, I think it would be the same. A lot of people who know my family members realize that I am the black sheep of the family by being one that actually never partake in any illegal activities or like things that actually like people get a lot of traps into the African American community as far as like smoking, drinking, doing drugs, while growing up in the projects by not falling into some of those pitfalls and actually keeping myself like my nose clean, being able to like get a family and start a business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What do you think contributed to your keeping a different path?
When I was growing up, my parents lost custody of us, and we was actually separated when I was 7, and I actually grew up in foster care. And the people in the foster and group homes that I grew up in actually made sure that I knew that I was loved and felt safe, that I didn't actually have to like go down some of these negative paths or some of these not negative but more not negative but more destructive paths that you could take. And so I knew that I had options and that if I wanted to use those options, I would not have to do those things. It was all about like the people who educated me to actually be better.
That's
When
great.
everybody that you surround yourself with is doing something, it is so easy to do those things.
So it sounds like you had a good placement for your foster care experience.
It was mostly group homes. I was a little hellion when I was in foster care.
Oh, really?
Group homes, yeah.
Wow. And yet you still picked up on the example of choosing more productive than less productive. Kudos.
Yeah. I tell people that I have 3 mothers. 2 of them are saints and one of them is a sinner. So,
Okay. Okay. And you know, we can learn a lot from sinners.
I don't know. The sinner is my original mother. Something can be learned. But it taught me to actually appreciate the opinions of people outside of your community more.
How so?
When I grew up, I was raised to be very religious, and then by being exposed to independent thought and being able to be told like, okay, this is what is being said. Make a rational thought for yourself in order to actually make the best decision for you. I became a better person once I decided to push past all of the religious trappings that I was taught and be a good person just for the sake of being a good person. If you can get people to be good people because they're good instead of being good people because they're going to be punished, they tend to turn out better.
Got it. I hear what you're saying.
In my opinion.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying.
I'm not saying anybody should be religious, but like I'm not totally not religious. I'm more of I'm good because it's in my heart to be good, not because somebody's watching me.
Yeah, no, I completely get what you're saying. There are different varieties of spirituality and of Christianity, and some are heavy on, you know, God's going to get you if you don't, or if you do. And then there are some that are much more about, you know, the forgiveness. And I also get that really, whatever religion we're talking about, in the end, ultimately, they're all saying to be a good person.
Yeah.
Bottom line. Yeah. Favorite quote, saying, metaphor, or book, and why?
My favorite quote is, it's actually my own quote, is shit happens and most likely what happened to you. Other people's shit doesn't matter in the long run.
Oh, please say it again. I started laughing and I want people to hear the whole thing. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. Go again.
My favorite quote, I actually made it myself because people say shit happens all the time. I go, shit happens. Most likely it will happen to you because other people's shit does not matter in the long run. Because people's view of the world most of the time is like, oh, poor me, poor me, poor me. But in the grand scheme of things, shit does happen. When your life is in perspective of you, shit most likely would happen to you. Oh, I got in a car accident. When everybody knows that 53,000 people have car accidents every single day.
Yeah.
When people know that, oh, my mom had a stroke. Okay, 20 other, like 1 million people had strokes today.
Yeah.
Because of like these odds. But everybody's stuck within their own bubble. So it's like, oh yeah, shit will happen. it's going to happen to you because you're the only person that you actually care about in the long run.
Right, right. When you say that, it reminds me of a conversation that I have with a couple family members, but one in particular who has a relationship to her religion is that, bad things shouldn't happen if you're doing what you're supposed to do. And I'm like, well, bad things are happening all around to people who are extremely faithful as well as the unfaithful. And it's kind of what the experience of being a human being is. So yeah, I
Exactly.
like that quote. All right, so now we're going to get into some of your other experiences. What is a person, moment, conversation, or event that stands out as changing the trajectory of your life or had a significant impact on your life?
Um, Early in this conversation, I remember how I had said I have three mothers. One of them, two of my saints. One is a sinner.
Mm-hmm.
When I was staying in one group home, I used to be a little butthole. Um, so I was actually doing little antagonistic butthole things. And my second mom, let's call her Diane.
Mm-hmm.
We're still in contact to this day. We've known each other for over 20 years.
Mm, that's
She
great.
stands up on the chair and screams, "Patrick, you are loved and I love you. Stop being a dick." And like there was like 20 other kids in this room, and I'm secretly getting yelled at with this by this white lady standing on the chair with red hair. Like I go, "I like you too, Diane." And like it literally shows that like you might feel a certain way about the people, like how much people care actually around you.
Mm,
But sometimes it does take somebody just yelling at you like, "I do care for you. Stop being a dick." Like,
yeah.
because I was a little butthole. She literally screamed at me in front of like 20 other people. It was, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that story. I do a lot of personal development. One of the things they talk about, a way that they phrase it is standing for other people, like being a stand for someone. And she literally got on a chair and was a stand for you to know that you're loved. That's great. So the next question is, what is a moment or event that puts a spotlight on your experience as a Black man in the United States?
Can you say that in a different way?
I sure can. One way to say it is, well, there are a couple ways. So one is, when did you realize you were Black? And when I say realize you were Black, I mean, when did life's experience, is there an experience or a moment that kind of stood out as, oh, I'm a Black man in the United States? Or it could just be something, and it doesn't have to be negative, by the way. For some people, it was something positive and feeling they were fully accepted in a community, or different variations thereof. But it's any moment or event, like some point in time where it is kind of like a seminal experience for you of being a Black man in the United States.
In the way I grew up, it wasn't a singular event that actually like say, "Oh, I'm a Black man in the United States," because like I grew up knowing I was a Black man in the United States. When you grow up in the projects, you know that everything you do, even as a child, you're being scrutinized for, even against people the same age and the same education level as you. First experience I can remember be like, "Oh crap, I'm not in Kansas anymore." When we first got taken from my mother, we lived with my aunt. I moved upstate. She lived in a more well off Caucasian area. I go
Mm-hmm.
to school. It's like, oh, I'm in school. I'm gonna continue to learn. When I was in school in the projects, never got into a fight. Everybody looked like me. Everybody knew what I knew. Everybody like nobody judged me for being who I was. I go to this school. I'm the only African American kid. I was like 7, 8 years old, and it was the snide remarks from the other kids and the bullying and whatnot that made me want to lash out at them because they were picking on me for being different, not just for being me. But it's like life is a constant reminder, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. The reason for the podcast is because there are so many different experiences um, of being a Black man in the United States, and there are some definite themes and similarities like that. And then it is quite a spectrum, but nearly everyone has expressed an experience similar or related to that. Patrick, have you had any experiences with law enforcement?
In general, my experience with law enforcement is basically where I grew up. Just avoid them as much as as much as possible, and use them when you need to. I try to I like basically my whole experience was like, oh, I can't, like I grew up knowing that, oh, if I try something, like I'm gonna get the book thrown even heavier at me because I am African American. So that precaution that did lead a lot of my decisions, like, oh, I can't do the same things, I can't try the same things, because I know if the boot does come down, my friends might get off like more lenient than I in those same situations. Can you also like 2 minutes have a customer in the store?
Oh, yeah. I'll go real quick then, these two questions. If the United States was a woman, what would you say to her? And she could be lover, wife, friend, or stranger.
Get an STD test, because some fucked up about you.
Okay. And what is love to you?
Love is the ability to sit and be silent, to be able to encourage a smile without actually saying a word. It's literally being able to sit and be comfortable without any stress being there.
Okay, great. And then this last two parts, they go super quick as well. Is there any advice that you would give to, is there anything that you think Black men should know, but don't, either from your experience or life or profession?
If you're going to invest in gold.
Got it.
A $100 pair of shoes is the same price as $100 worth of gold. One goes up, one you wear around to look fancy.
I love it. Okay, and then lastly, what, if anything, did you get from participating in this conversation?
I don't know. I like the conversation a lot. It just shows that, like, so through some of your comments about like, oh, there's similar experiences to yours, and people do grow and change in different environments to actually reach the same likelihoods.
That's great. Well, Patrick, I want to thank you for taking the time, and I thank you for being a demonstration of what it looks like to live a life responsibly and being accountable. So thank you again.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for listening. As you can hear, you do not want to miss any of these brothers. Make sure you subscribe. You can find more at our website, 365brothers.com, 365brothers.com. This is Robin Shine. To listen is to love.